Looks like we're still missing quite a few students, so maybe I'll just give it another minute.
Okay.
It looks like we might be missing like a whole course. That's we typically have about 320 to 350, which is a really nice class.
Yeah, yesterday I think one class came in and it because the number jumped up at like 12:35.
Right. Students, could you please put your name in the chat?
Oh, nobody's entered yet. I haven't.
Okay, sorry. Showing up as participants, not in the waiting room on my screen, so that's where I was confused. I see they're all still in the waiting room.
Yeah, they're all still.
Okay.
I'm going to start admitting them now.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to your last seminar of the BeaverWorks Summer Institute seminar series. I hope you guys are all getting ready for your final demonstrations this weekend. Can't wait to see the videos on Sunday. Please remember to put your name in the chat for attendance purposes. We see the numbers are slowly ticking up. Give it one more minute and then I'll introduce our speakers. We have a fantastic talk today. Okay, well, maybe we'll get started and I'll start with the introduction. So today we have two speakers. Eliza Berg is the lead for Solv's learning and Solved communities. Before joining Solv, Eliza held positions in higher education, policy, research, nonprofit management, and human rights advocacy. We also have Gabby Gonzalez, who's the senior officer for the Solved community. And before joining Solv, she held roles in fundraising, grant making, marketing, and also teaching. And today they're going to talk to us about supporting the next generation of social innovators. So I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions. Please make sure you put them in the chat. I will call on you at the appropriate time. And thank you so much, Eliza and Gabby, for being here. And I'll turn it over to you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the introduction. And hello, everyone. We're so excited to be here and speak with you all today. And hopefully you get to hear some of your questions and just have a nice discussion as well. So Gabby and I are here. We're going to talk to you about MIT Solv and Solv Ed. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about MIT Solv for those of you who don't know what it is, what we're all about, and then Gabby's going to take it from there to talk more about Solv Ed. So really excited to be here. Thanks for having us. So Gabby, do you want to go ahead and share our slides just so we give you some nice visuals here? Alrighty. So I'm going to jump right into MIT Solv and what we are all about. So MIT Solv, for those of you who don't know, we are an initiative of MIT. We've been around since about 2015, 2016, and we are a marketplace for social impact innovation. Now, what does that actually mean? We will tell you. So essentially what we do is we host open innovation challenges, meaning we'll put out big topics to the world and really invite everyone everywhere to submit their innovative solutions. We certainly have some criteria around these challenges that can involve things like it has to be technology enabled. It has to be something that can be scaled to hopefully impact the lives of many, many people. And of course, some other criteria. And we have the help of the MIT community and a broader community to really help select those solutions. So we run these challenges and we end up selecting technology-based social entrepreneurs from all around the world. And this is kind of a little bit of a snapshot of what our innovation cycle looks like. So when we say innovation cycle, There's sort of a piece here that is missing at the top, which is, of course, just launching these global challenges, which we work with lots of different people, different stakeholders and experts globally to kind of figure out what are the different challenge topics and problem areas that we should be focusing on. So we typically will focus in economic prosperity, health, learning, and sustainability. And I think a little bit later on when Gabby talks about Solv, we'll talk a little bit more about what some of those topics involve. So this is kind of the pipeline. You can see that how our model works. So at the highest level, we're kind of opening it up to everyone everywhere to submit their exciting, innovative ideas, concepts, or maybe it's further along. They have an established model, they have a pilot, maybe they're already funded through nonprofit or venture capital funding, you know, whatever their business model might be. So we invite them to apply to these challenges. We involve the community in kind of voting on and commenting on some of the solutions. And we typically get around 2,000 or mid 2000s of applications for all of these global challenges. So really exciting to see those all coming through, certainly, and going through the selection process. And then, as I mentioned, we'll work with experts and judges to kind of select down to, based on the criteria, what are the most promising solutions. And we tend to pick around 8 teams per challenge. And so from there, once we actually select these incredible innovators, what are we actually doing with them? So with these solver teams, we call them, they're essentially the teams that we select. Over the past several years, we've selected a portfolio of about 228 solutions from across 30 different global challenges. And what we do is we support them through funding, through partnerships and connections and mentorship, which could include mentorship. We work on kind of elevating their presence, you know, through different channels, through social media, through other media channels. And we really try to build a cohort. So each of the challenges, for example, we just ran a re-engaging learners challenge. So the cohort from that challenge will get together on a monthly basis and we'll really work together to hopefully also help each other and see what they can do to move their solutions forward. So this slide just kind of gives you a sense of across the portfolio of different innovators that we've worked with, what are some of the things that that they're doing. They're headquartered in 49 different countries. We're really, I think, proud of, we have a 64% women-led portfolio, which sometimes in entrepreneurship spaces, there's certainly underrepresentation among women, and then particularly women of color. And we can talk a little bit in a second about some of the work we're doing there as well. So I will mention some of the 2022 global challenges just to give you a sense of the topics that we have put out to the world most recently. So in the health space, we looked at equitable health systems, so thinking about how we can build affordable, accessible, and high quality health systems that are serving everyone everywhere. And I should mention that for all of these challenges, we are definitely interested in, of course, serving people broadly, but also these need to be solutions that are thinking about people who don't otherwise have access or might have access, but the quality of care, in this case with health systems, is not great. So we're always thinking about communities that might be underserved or more vulnerable to certain challenges. In our economic prosperity pillar, we focused on the care economy. So thinking about how we can ensure giving and receiving care is accessible, affordable, and valued for all. In the climate space, which is our sustainability pillar, we ran a challenge around how communities can protect high carbon ecosystems and create low carbon housing for everyone. Housing is a theme that we're probably going to be continuing into next year. So if you're interested in this area, definitely keep an eye out for the 2023 Global Challenge. In the learning space, we focused on re-engaging learners. So all of you learners out there probably have the best experience with, potentially how difficult or maybe how much better it's been for you, depending on kind of your preferences in education systems, and moving to, having to meet over Zoom, and then certainly thinking about communities that don't have access to the internet or haven't, their education has been so disrupted. And so looking for what are the ways that we can bridge those learning gaps for young people so that they can continue to thrive and succeed, and that we're not, lots of discussion around learning loss, and certainly not wanting to have folks be left behind in their education journeys. And then I will mention we have two kind of programmatic components within these global challenges around Indigenous communities, so supporting Native innovators, and then also a Black and Brown innovators in the United States program, which is particularly focused on supporting Black and Latinx entrepreneurs in the United States. And so we selected innovators that are sort of working in those communities, from those communities, really close and proximate to that work across all of the challenges. And now I think it's time to hand it over to Gabby to talk what you're all here for, hopefully, to talk about Solv Ed.
Hi everyone, my name is Gabby Gonzalez, and I have the pleasure of working with Eliza and helping build this Solv Ed program that I'm here to talk about. So Solv Ed was really born out of the work that you just heard Eliza talk about. Solv has been around for 6 years, and last year was the first year we launched Solv Ed. And we really wanted to build a program that was specifically for young people that were interested in making an impact in their communities and the world. And so what we built was going to look very different from what we do at Solv, supporting our more developed and further in their journeys entrepreneurs. And so Solv Ed was designed, like I said, to spark a sense of agency and make sure that young people feel like they're capable of building social impact innovations. And we really wanted to prioritize access to resources that young people wouldn't otherwise have access to, whether that's funding, learning opportunities, opportunities to meet other young people interested in similar things across the world. And in our approach, most of our programming is virtual, but we wanted to make sure that at the center of our design, we were really thinking about how to make experiential learning the opportunity that young people get to have, prioritizing accessibility, and then community building amongst our community of really global young people. We talk about our age being anyone age 24 and under, and what we tend to see is high school student to undergraduate student engagement in our programs. And so who is Solv Ed for? I was just mentioning this a little bit, but our participants are really young folks age 24 and under. We see participation from all over the world in our Youth Innovation Challenge and in our programming. And we're always particularly interested in finding young folks in underserved communities who may not typically have access to these types of resources. And parallel to that, we also work with what we call Solv Ed members, and these are organizations and schools that are interested in providing these types of opportunities to their students. So in order to do that, they join the Solv Ed community as a member and therefore have access to a number of different programmatic offerings that they can share with their students. And so Solv Ed is dynamic. There are lots of pieces to it, but in summary, there are 4 main components of the program. The first one is what we call our Solvathon workshops that are similar to what some of you might know as a hackathon workshop, but specifically for social impact. And so these are longer form workshops that we've been running virtually that move students through the design thinking process. So you start with a problem that you're interested in, you're paired with other students from around the world who have a similar interest, and through the course of the workshop, You actually build an idea, a solution that you're interested in understanding a little further, or maybe building out a little bit further, and by the end you're presenting it. And everyone that participates in these global Solvathon workshops is then eligible to apply for $300 micro grants. And these micro grants are specifically for you all to go and research the problem you care about further. Our philosophy at Solv is very much that we want young folks and everyone to understand a problem before you solve anything. And so a lot of our programming is around understanding problems and teaching people how to go and interview folks, users, talk to experts, build a holistic picture of a problem before you even start to think about solutions. The second component of our program is micro grants. I alluded to that just a second ago. So we offer young people $300 and $600 micro grants so that they can go and do more research to understand problems. And the $600 micro grants are for young people to go and actually build prototypes of their solutions in preparation for the Youth Innovation Challenge. The third component is that Youth Innovation Challenge. So starting on September 1st, Solv will be launching its second Solv Ed Youth Innovation Challenge, which is accepting solutions from young people all around the world that are helping solve some sort of social impact challenge in their communities in the world. And so those solutions can range from education related to solutions, economic prosperity, opportunity, job creation, to sustainability and health and mental health care solutions. We're not looking for folks that are necessarily at a far stage in their development, even though they should absolutely and are eligible for our challenge. But unlike our global challenges, some of the innovators that we select from the Youth Innovation Challenge are actually at very early stages in their process and have a strong concept or a prototype when they come to us and apply to our challenge. And some of the innovators we've selected are at that stage. I'll share more about them in a moment. And then the final component of our program is our Solv Ed Solutions event. And this is an event that we're hosting at the beginning of November this year, which is an opportunity for young folks everywhere. Anyone can actually register for this event and have the opportunity to get guidance on their ideas as they prepare to apply to our challenge. It's also an opportunity to meet other young people, to actually participate in some interactive programming, all during this virtual event. Moving on from that, I think when you all ask yourselves, like, am I interested in this program? Is this something that's for me? I think it's important for you all to keep in mind what this program can offer you. And so we think that Solv Ed is a program that will allow you to reflect on your purpose and the challenges that you're interested in. I think so many young folks that I've spoken to are like really excited about making a social impact, but don't necessarily know where they're like an expert or where they can start or what problem to focus on. It can be very overwhelming. And so participating in Solv Ed programming gets you the opportunity to try different things, to learn more about particular problems as you start to develop your own purpose or your own sense of like interest and commitment to a social cause. Solv Ed also gives you the opportunity to meet and interact with other young people around the world. You'll have the opportunity to also gain experience and skills in design thinking and social innovation. You'll get to design, prototype, and advance your innovative solutions. And by applying to our micro grants and to our challenge, you'll have the opportunity to potentially get micro grant funding or prize funding to help you move your solutions forward. So these are a few folks that have participated in our programming, are aware of Solv Ed, that are leaders in the social impact field and are also very young. So Emma Yang was a youth committee member. So last year as we designed the program, we actually had an advisory committee of young people who helped us design the program. And Emma Yang is actually the youngest solver that we've ever selected. She was 12 when she was selected. And she is now in college here in Cambridge. And she is has helped develop the Solv Ed program and what it looks like based on her experiences as an entrepreneur herself. And Gitanjali is the inventor and Time Kid of the Year, who was part of our launch of the program and helped promote the program more globally. Impact to date, I mentioned that we are just entering the second year of the program, and this is a little bit of a summary of what's happened in year one. And so over the course of the last year, we awarded over $26,400 in micro grant funding to 64 recipients, really globally representative. We received 810 applications to our Youth Innovation Challenge, representing 148 countries. We selected 10 Solv Ed innovator teams representing 6 countries. We hosted 20 virtual learning sessions, application clinics, and workshops attended by close to 1,000 young people from around the world, covering topics from purpose development and finding your purpose, all the way to prototyping 101. And we also concluded the first iteration of our Solv Ed Youth Committee, which was that group of 9 youth leaders, mostly college-age students and 1 high school student, who helped us design the program, everything from our challenge application to the challenge design, and helping us figure out what the solutions of it was going to look like. Now here, I'm very excited to share with you all the 10 Solv Ed innovators. These were the 10 teams that we selected in the first year of the Solv Ed Youth Innovation Challenge. As I said, we'll be launching this challenge very soon and welcome you all to apply in teams or as individuals to our challenge. And we'll be sharing a little bit more about what that challenge is in the coming year, but wanted to share with you a little bit about these teams. So here, the first innovator that we have here is Devshi, and her solution is based in California and is improving criminal justice outcomes for Americans by expanding the review of body camera footage, jail calls, and more. The second innovator we have here, moving from left to right, is Liz. Liz is based in Illinois, and her solution, Etana, is a cost-effective device that enables women in developing countries to create a unique identity without having access to the internet or electricity. Liz is an example of somebody who is in the prototype stage of their solution, and through Solv Ed is receiving mentorship to help her actually pilot her solution and develop it further. The third person we have here is Razin. His solution is HydroQuo Plus, based in Bangladesh, and is focused on delivering water intelligence to drive water safety and availability with actionable insights. The fourth innovator we have here is Olarinde, and his solution is Thesis. It's based in Nigeria and is an assistive reading application that makes use of artificial intelligence to help the visually impaired read printed books and educational materials. The fifth innovator we have here is Phyllis, and her solution is Spring, and she's based in Connecticut, and Spring is a reusable menstrual cup that includes therapy for menstrual pain. On the bottom row, we have Gloria, and Gloria's solution is Triple P, and she is based in Kenya, and her solution, Triple P, upcycles food waste into fertilizer and animal feed, and we were able to connect her with one of our Solver teams who's doing similar work in a different country, and they've been able to work together to think about how to scale both of their solutions, supporting one another. Next, we have Sandra, and Sandra's solution is Carpalax. She's based in Uganda and uses green nanotechnology to extend the shelf life of fruits and vegetables. Then we have Opeyemi, whose solution is InSync. He is based in Nigeria, and his solution is a mobile application that provides mental health care to people who have mental illness or emotional needs so that they can live happier lives. Next, we have Jacob. His solution is called Claw Industries, and he's based in New York. His solution is a partial replacement for cement made from landfill glass that reduces the embodied carbon of concrete to eliminate high carbon infrastructure. And last but not least, we have Tafadzwa, and his solution is called CropFix. They're based in Zimbabwe, and their solution is a WhatsApp chat box that helps smallholder farmers detect crop pests and diseases through images. That's just a little taste of our 10 innovators and what they're working on. And we've been really lucky that through Solv, we've been able to promote these innovators and the work that they're doing, which has been really, really exciting. I'm going to hand it over to Eliza to talk a little bit more about what our Solv Ed community looks like and who our members are.
Yeah, I think just want to note that we have universities and schools and other youth serving organizations who can join the Solv Ed member community. And by doing so, they kind of sponsor and support students in their networks to get access to additional resources and additional support. So some of the examples are here, and we would encourage, if your school or university potentially in the future, or institution, if you're interested in getting them involved, they certainly can. And that's a nice way to get more involved in the community. And then obviously BeaverWorks is listed here as one of our MIT program collaborators. So in kind of building this program over the last year and a half or so, we are very grateful to our friends on MIT's campus in, providing opportunities like this, and then also hopefully shared learning, bringing in curriculum where it makes sense into the Solv Ed program, and vice versa, if there are ways that we can help support some of the other programs on campus that are particularly geared towards young people. We're very happy to do that. And back to you, Gabby, right, for the challenge?
I'm happy to talk about it, sure.
Okay.
So the Youth Innovation Challenge, so that you all know what the scope is and what you can actually apply with, is seeking solutions from tech-enabled solutions that address one of the following challenges, but then our fifth bullet point is really saying, or anything else related to social impact. So as just guidelines, we're looking for solutions that improve learning opportunities and outcomes for learners across their lifetimes from early childhood on. No age limit to the folks that you might be working with. We're looking for solutions that support financial and economic opportunities. We're looking for solutions that accelerate healthcare access and health outcomes, reducing and ultimately eliminating disparities in health. And we're looking for solutions that take action to combat climate change and its impacts. But if there's a problem that you're working on that impacts human beings or the environment, that is still if you're working on a problem that does that, we are still accepting solutions that do that. These are just guidelines, but we've had solutions submitted that are doing civic innovations, working with governments for further transparency. And so those are absolutely eligible solutions to our challenge. And if you ever have any questions or doubts about whether your solution is actually eligible, that's what we're here for. An email to us can quickly answer that question for you. Who is eligible to apply? Truly anyone, anywhere around the world can submit a solution to our challenge. You can apply as a team or as an individual. The only requirement limitation is that everyone on the team needs to be age 24 and under. And if there happens to be one member of your team that's older, we have recommended to teams that they apply without that individual on their application, and that's okay as long as the team lead is represented on the application and they're age 24 and under. And as a reminder, like whether your solution is a concept, a product that's being prototyped, a service that is being piloted, or maybe like a fully fledged registered organization, we're looking for those solutions. We do not say we're going to look for the most developed solutions or innovators. Our innovators are quite representative of people at different stages of their design process. What we care about in the selection of our innovators is that people have spent time understanding a problem deeply, whether it's a problem in their communities or that they're proximate to. We want to make sure that the solution is designed with and for the community that you're trying to serve. And so the Solv Ed innovators, what they get prize funding and the opportunity to actually receive follow-on funding months after they've been working on their solution and they've been selected. Also, every innovator is matched with mentors from the MIT Solv community to help them move forward in their process. You get exposure through MIT Solv in the media, and finally that MIT affiliation and access. Our Solv Ed innovators are invited to come to MIT's campus in May for our Solv Ed MIT event, which is a multi-day event. There's special programming for youth during that event, and then they get to join the bigger conference-wide events and sessions that have funders and other people there that can help you grow your solution. That's what the event is about. And so a little bit of our timeline, things that you all are invited to participate in. Our challenge is going to be launching on September 1st. All of you are invited to register for our Global Solvathon workshop, which will be taking place virtually on September 10th. That's an opportunity to kind of jumpstart your process if it hasn't already, or for you to continue to get input and develop your ideas with a team of other people. On November 3rd and 4th, we're offering our solutions event, which will take place virtually. You're also invited to participate in that. And finally, at the end of January, our challenge will be closing. And soon after that, we'll start our selection process. And in mid-spring of next year, we'll be selecting our 10 next innovators. So what I'd love to share with you all, instead of having me continue to speak, is actually share with you a little bit from our innovators. We did interviews with them for a course that we're developing. And in that, they really got to talk. You're the first people watching these videos, by the way. It's really them sharing a little bit about their journeys and how they got started. I think that hearing from them the ways that they were not experts when they started, they were not ever seeking to necessarily be an entrepreneur. They started with a problem that they cared about, might be of inspiration to you. So I will share the videos with you. We have 3 innovators. The first one is Phyllis.
So my inspiration in becoming a social entrepreneur innovator started before I even knew what those terms meant. I've always loved science, but I've always wanted to put my learning into action, because I've always thought, what is the point of knowing all this science if I can't apply it, and try and find a way to make it useful. And so I had, very early on, I started writing down any sort of challenges or any sort of inconvenience that occurred in my day. And eventually these things became a problem statement or a challenge that I gave myself. So for example, menstruation was one of them. I said, why these products? Why can I not go swimming when I'm on my period because I'm using a sanitary pad? And I started listening to other challenges people are facing, and I just write them down, keeping track of them. And what that did, that practice allowed me to just not get used to the fact that life had to be this way. There's always going to be a solution to something, but I just didn't want to forget what those pain points were. So I just started writing things down very early on, and then when I started going through my coursework in school, whenever I was learning about different mechanisms, my studies were in engineering. When I started learning about how things worked, I would take a moment to sit and think, I start trying to make associations in my mind about, how this particular mechanism can probably solve for this solution. And just by making those associations, I was able to start even mapping those onto the different pain points that I'd written before. So really, it just took a lot of observation. It took a lot of paying attention to what those pain points were, and just getting myself in a practice of not accepting the way things were. And so eventually, when all the associations came together to tackle the challenge of innovation in menstrual hygiene management, that's when I decided I want to come up with a solution for this. And again, it started off as just an engineering project, and the more feedback we got, it just started to grow. The more questions we asked, the more people's lives we started to touch and impact. That's when I decided this needs to be its own company. I never saw myself as a social entrepreneur. I never saw myself as an innovator. But it was just the encouragement to just keep on asking the questions, to just trust myself that, these associations I'm making them for a reason. And the thing is, if you're struggling with something, if it's a pain point in your life, someone else is probably going through that too. And so that's kind of a bit about my journey of how I found myself here.
That was Phyllis from the Solution Spring. And next we have, let's see.
So
There we go. We have Debshi from Justice Text.
When I was applying to colleges, I actually, really wanted to study political science or public policy or something to do with government. And I think my family has known that for a very long time. I used to tell them that I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to fight for justice. And that's just how my brain has been oriented for a very long time. I come from an Indian family of very smart immigrants who both met in engineering school in India and, informed me kindly, but also assertively when I was a senior in high school that I should probably, study one of the hard sciences, and really encouraged me to go into computer science, which is the path that they had taken. And I think in the beginning, I didn't really know what to expect. I hadn't studied a lot of computer science. I didn't have a lot of background in it. But I think from the beginning, one of the inklings that I had was that, computer science doesn't close any doors. If anything, I can use the interest that I have around government, civic engagement, public policy, and further enhance that by the fact that I'm building the skill set and, getting the ability to actually create all these cool products. I think I really enjoyed my time studying computer science. I did internships where I learned how to build mobile apps. I worked in machine learning research labs, and just became so excited and like increasingly confident about my abilities in the space. But at the same time, I also felt relatively out of place. As I mentioned, I would spend a lot of my free time listening to podcasts on, the history of segregation in Chicago, or volunteer in my local community teaching computer science classes to young girls all across the city. Whereas a lot of my colleagues, they were attending hackathons and they were doing research and they were talking about, applying to PhD programs. And in many ways, I was wondering, is the path that I'm taking not rigorous enough? Am I not cut out for this? Am I, maybe just not the right candidate for the field that I'm studying right now? But then I got to a point where I was like, no, this is actually a superpower. At the end of the day, there aren't that many people who look like me and who think like me, who are in this space, who are building these skill sets. And I want to find ways in which I can use that to build something that I'm uniquely positioned to. And so I did pursue a master's in international relations, global affairs, which was like a big departure from my undergrad in computer science. But that, gave me the chance to formally study economics, formally talk about politics on the global stage. And I think all of these experiences together have really informed the type of work that we're doing now in building justice text.
And last but not least, I'm happy to share with you all a little clip from Emma Yang, who is our, like I mentioned before, our youngest Solver team and helped build what Solv is today.
For me, I started, doing sort of coding and computer science pretty young. And so I sort of have known for a long time that was sort of the core thing that I wanted to pursue, especially, later on when I started entering high school and thinking about what I wanted to study in college. So I think that for me, computer science has been the main thing that I've been doing outside of school extracurricularly. And Timeless really was a manifestation of that. And I think that, it was, for me, a very unique way for me to explore computer science, of thinking about sort of how I'm actually taking my skills and my technical skills and applying them. And then on the way of that, sort of also developing more skills along the way as I was working on Timeless. And so I think that, in terms of sort of what I wanted to study, I still, I really loved school, really loved everything that I was learning about in school, even, to this day. But I think that it really helped me to sort of form a view of what does CS and what does technology look like in the real world, and thinking how do I take actually these skills that I might develop in a classroom or by reading a book or learning something through a website, and actually taking that into the real world and using CS to make an impact and seeing how just that manifests itself in solving real world problems.
All right, well, that was the primary presentation we had for you all today. It was really all about sharing what Solv is, what MIT Solv is, and the opportunities that you all can get involved in, like our Global Solvathon taking place in September, our Solutions event in early November, and we'll make sure to reach out to the Beaverworks team and share more about those events and the registration link so that you can all participate, especially info about the challenge once that launches on September 1st. I know that Eliza has been answering your questions in the chat, but I don't know if there are still some questions that folks would like to ask, and we are happy to answer them. Thank you all for listening, and here are emails in case there's anything you want to follow up with or any questions you have.
And Gabby, I'll just jump in because Dylan was asking some great questions in the chat. So I can respond to what Dylan was asking about just in terms of actually applying to the challenge. And I want to note that the Solv Ed challenge is going to be open in September. So it's not quite launched yet. So you won't be able to submit your solution until starting in September. But Dylan had a great question about, what if I don't have an organization name? So that's actually something that Gabby and I are going to noodle on a little bit. But for now, I would say if you don't have an organization name, that's completely fine. You can just put that in the application, doesn't exist or not available. And you certainly do not need to have an established organization in order to submit. And I think, in fact, many of the submissions that we received last year, did not have an established organization behind it. And Braden is asking about, do you have to have a team beforehand when applying? What if the developer is independent? Great question. You mentioned this, but we do want to, because this program is for people 24 and under, we do want to make sure that the team lead primarily falls within that age range. So that's not to say that you can't have other people that are working on your solution that might be older than that, might be involved in a different way. So that's fine. We just say, leave them off the application. Just keep it to the young folks who are kind of driving the solution that you're submitting. And then you do not need to have a team beforehand. However, if you do, of course, that's fine. There will be spaces. So one of the reasons we have the challenge open from September until mid to end of January is hopefully so that if people come in and find out about this challenge and want to build a team and work together, you can do that. And you'll have time, a few months at least, to do that as well. So that's why we encourage you, come to the Solvathon, come to the solutions event. Those are both really great opportunities to meet other potential team members who might want to collaborate with you. And then on the platform, there is a way that, say, someone else has already started a solution and submitted it. You can kind of see what's been submitted already, peruse that, and maybe make a comment and say, hey, I'm interested in getting more involved in your idea. Do you need more team members? And we are thinking about ways in the future that we can help facilitate that a little bit better.
So, Eliza, maybe we could maybe I can call on the students. I think they might want to have a little bit interaction if you don't mind.
Yes, absolutely.
Irene, you had a question earlier on, I think it was on mentorship.
Oh yeah. It's just I noticed that I think Bob mentioned it, but it's mentioning our ideas to you right now. But I think further than that, it's how would we get in contact with mentorships before the selection process?
So I'm going to let Gabby talk a little bit about what that might look like and clarify that we don't have a formal kind of mentorship program pre-selection. That's more of the post-selection, the 10 innovators that we select. However, there will be opportunities to connect with people who can support you as you're thinking through your solution. So maybe Gabby, you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for your question. So the Solv program, like Eliza mentioned, we offer mentorship only to the selected Solv innovators. However, the opportunity for coaching and feedback really comes with our micro grant application. So anyone who attends our Solv Global Solvathon or is part of a member organization is able to apply for these $300 and $600 micro grants. And when you are awarded a micro grant, you then have access to a month of special programming specifically for those micro grant recipients. And that includes office hours, which are opportunities for you to get feedback and kind of coaching on your particular questions or idea, and specifically extra guidance on how to use that funding to improve your solution or develop your research.
Just real quick, as a follow-up for microgrants, I think it's so we apply for microgrants, and is that like based on, I guess how would that be selected? Would that be selected only for ideas, or would that be like?
Yeah, so in order to apply, if you are not part of a member organization, you must participate in the Solvathon in order to be able to apply for those micro grants. And our exploratory micro grants do not require that you have a solution in mind or an idea for a solution. What it does require is that you have identified a problem that you care about and that you want to understand further so that you can then create a solution to address. And so for that application, there are 4 simple questions that are really asking you to identify and be specific about the problem that you care about, why it matters, why it's important, and then telling us about your plan, your research plan. What are you going to do with these $300 to go and actually understand this problem further, whether that's doing user research, whether that's traveling to a particular context or environment where you can have more exposure to people being impacted by these problems, whether that's actually doing surveying, whether that is a combination of all those things, whether it's a bit of secondary research. We want to see some sort of plan that you have and are committed to go and further understand that problem. And this funding is really, we're really paying you to encourage you to go do that work.
Great. Mohammed had some questions. Mohammed, do you want to unmute? And anyone else with a question, feel free to raise your hand using the Zoom feature.
Oh, hello. So I guess like my main question was like, what do you think is like what makes or breaks a solution? Like, and like what makes it like successful? Like, I mean, like an idea could still be like working, but like what do you think makes the difference between like a solution that actually like makes it further along into the process versus one that doesn't?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So I think the most important thing to making a solution successful is that it's actually addressing a problem that exists. And so I think no matter what, a solution that is developed in isolation of the people that it's going to be used by will more likely than not be unsuccessful. And so what we've seen from all of our successful solutions, or folks that have made it to the semifinalist round in our challenge, is that they have spent a significant amount of time understanding a problem, and or they have been personally affected by the problem and therefore have a deep understanding of what that problem is, what it looks like, why it happens. And so a lot of the work that we do and really encourage is for young people to identify a problem and spend time understanding the root causes of that problem, so that when you are building a solution, you are addressing the root cause of that problem, not just the symptoms of the problem. And so I think in addition to, I think most important is doing that research. And then in the design process is asking a lot of the really important design questions, and like asking yourself and asking others as you build your solution what it should look like. So I think the prototyping and design phase is also a really important piece to success. And that's often involves co-design. So not just designing something independent of the people that will be using it, but building something in community with the people that are going to be using it, so that you can ensure number one, that you have buy-in from your users themselves, and number two, that it's actually something usable that meets the criteria and needs of the people that will be using it. I think thinking about things like, is this affordable? Is this accessible? Is this something that people can easily integrate into their lives? Is this something they're going to see the value of? Those are the questions that need to be at the center of the actual design of your solution. So asking a combination of those, a combination of that like deep understanding research and asking those hard design questions and using like your co-design skill sets in the design process will get you to a pretty good place with a good prototype that you can apply to our challenge with, that will make it pretty far.
And from Gabby said that very well, from a purely kind of criteria standpoint, I put in earlier in the chat the specific criteria that we do use, which I will copy over again. But one of the first steps in our selection process is going through and screening all of the solutions And the key things that we are looking for is largely what Gabby just described, and kind of have you, is this application complete? Is it intelligible? Is it appropriate? If we read through it, we can clearly kind of grasp what you're getting at. And then the piece around really is that idea, and again, totally welcome idea stage solutions, but has that idea really been thought through, as Gabby was describing? And then we want to make sure too that it is addressing a social impact challenge. So we talk about this on the challenge page and what kinds of topics are considered social impact challenge. I would say it's pretty fairly broad and inclusive. If you make the case that this is something that is considered social impact, then it's likely that we're going to agree with you. And then the solution needs to be powered by technology. Again, we consider that very broadly. So it could be a new application of an existing technology. It could be very rudimentary technology. It could be indigenous knowledge as technology. We take a really broad definition of technology. And then we do also just kind of overall want to know that the application has been complete, clearly put some thought and some research into it. Even if you don't have all the answers, that's totally fine. But that you've kind of demonstrated that level of effort there. So just wanted to note that those are some of the specific criteria that we are looking at in the early stages of screening your solutions.
Thank you. I really appreciate the answers.
Thanks. That's a great question, Mohammed. Braden, do you want to ask your question? We probably have time for one, maybe two more.
Sure. So I wanted to ask, so could a technology or a solution have multiple components, such as let's say you have hypothetically a companion robotic assistant. However, you also have wearable technology like augmented reality glasses that allow that companion robotic assistant to talk to you from anywhere in the world. Would that be implemented as part of the solution, or should it be limited to one specific device?
Yes, I would say absolutely. If you're using multiple technologies, that is A-okay.
All right, thank you.
And I did see Charles, just responding to Charles' question about would social media be considered technology? I think if you're making the case, so I think yes, because people likely need to be using devices. However, if your solution is something that, this is a tricky one, I might need Gabby to help me because she's explained it very well in the past. Yeah, go ahead, Gabby.
Typing it in the chat as you speak, so
go for it.
I'll just say it out loud. So I think when you're asking yourself this question, is my solution considered tech-enabled or tech-based? The question to ask yourself is whether your solution would still work if you took the technology piece out. So if your solution would still work and meet its goals if you took the tech piece out, then I'd say no. The tech is not essential to your solution, or it's not an important enough part of your solution. So I'd say no. So I think when you ask yourself, is social media considered technology? The answer is depends. Depends on what role it plays in your actual solution and the goals of your actual solution, right? So I will type it in the chat. So the question to ask yourself is, does my solution still work if you take the tech component out of it? If the answer is no, then it is likely tech-based.
Okay. Charles, you want to ask your really quick question? Maybe Charles is muted.
I believe they just answered Charles's question. He was on the one on social media.
Oh, okay. No, well, I thought he was asking, is social media considered technology? Yes.
Yeah, I think it definitely depends. And if you do find yourself with this question too, where you're like, oh, I really don't know, just reach out to us, and we're happy to give our input. Come to one of the application clinics as well. I can respond quickly to Dylan's piece. So worth noting that we have a lot of challenges on our site. So if you're going to the site and you're like, oh my gosh, I see all these challenges. Can I apply to them? What's going on? What's happening? So the 2023 global challenges are going to open in February. So as of February, you will see, I think, 5 challenges listed on the page. September is when we will open the Solv Ed challenge. We do also have other challenges running. So Dylan mentioned the novel measurement for performance improvement challenge, which I can check. It might actually be open, but I'll check on that. So at any rate, when those open, a lot of them will be listed on the challenges page. And then when you go in and you create an account in order to submit your solution, and you'll be able to select which challenge you are submitting for. So that's just something to look out for. We have some guides on the site around, how to actually submit to a challenge. And again, if anything is confusing, just reach out to us and we're happy to help. Performance improvement challenge is open. Great, confirmed. Thanks, Braden.
Thank you so much for the talk. At this point, I'd like to ask Catherine and Lucy to thank our speakers and virtually present them with their gift.
Hello, my name is Lucy Kim and I'm in Metalytics with Catherine. So first, I would like to thank you so much for giving us such an insightful talk about your program. I think it's really impactful because Solvent offers opportunities to future leaders to develop their own commitment to social causes. It was really fascinating to see other peers positively impact their own society, and it also motivated me to conduct challenges that I'm interested in. So thank you.
Yeah, same thing here, but I think it's amazing what you do at MIT Solve for Youth Innovators, like letting these cool ideas come to life, and like providing resources to succeed that teenagers probably otherwise wouldn't have. So like after this talk, I know I'm super interested in the Solve It challenge. So thank you so much for presenting this to us. And now I'd like you to get the Beaverworks t-shirt if you haven't already received it.
Can you guys just hold it up and smile? Oh, you got yours on. Joel's going to take a quick picture.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
We are so excited about the t-shirts, by the way. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much for coming. It was a fantastic talk, and clearly students are very excited and very engaged. So
thank you.
Beaverworks students, good luck this weekend. Lisa, did you have announcements?
No, we actually have a 1:30 meeting, so we're going to end it quickly.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Do you see my
you.
question in chat?
Thank you. Dylan, I'm just looking at your question.